Well, there's a lot of people out on the West Coast, I'm sure you know, Chris, who believe that maybe Adoree Jackson of USC is the better all-around player doing a lot of the same things, if not better than Jabril Peppers. He didn't get the attention. And then, of course, they're also a little perturbed, to say the least, that Jake Browning didn't even get a run out there if you're going to have five guys go from New York. What's your reaction to the West Coast reaction to maybe some East Coast bias, in their eyes anyway?
Yeah, well, I think the East Coast bias is definitely a valid charge. It's just it's harder for those guys on the West Coast to get as much buzz, as much for as much excitement to really coalesce around their campaigns when a lot of people are sleeping by the time that they're playing. It's unfortunate, but I think you kind of saw this a little bit last year with Christian McCaffrey too. I thought he was the best candidate last year, but he didn't get as much attention as, say, Derrick Henry for Alabama, who was playing in all these primetime games when people were awake. Now, part of that has to do with the fact that Henry plays for this powerhouse program like Alabama, but at the same time, I really believe that if McCaffrey did play in the Eastern time zone, he would have had a stronger campaign. And I think the same issue applies this year with Jake Browning. I mean, he was at one point this season, he was on track to break Russell Wilson's single-season pass efficiency record, and then you had another guy who plays for a smaller program, but Donnell Pumphrey at San Diego State, also just got barely any attention. And as for Adoree Jackson, I think he had that one terrific game towards the end of the year, but yeah, that's a valid point that he, like Peppers, is able to do a lot of different things on the football field. The one thing I should have mentioned about Peppers in the previous question is that Peppers really got a huge bump because his coach really went out on a limb for him. I don't know if you remember after the Rutgers game, but Jim Harbaugh gave Peppers a Heisman stump speech, if you will, and Clay Helton at USC didn't really do that. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think people on the West Coast can validly claim that there is some East Coast bias at work here.
Yeah, the Louisville recruiting Twitter handle gave Jabril Peppers a vote as well. So he's got a couple different avenues supporting him. So when it's all said and done, who takes home the Heisman Trophy?
I think it's Lamar Jackson. I mean, you mentioned it before. He hasn't had the greatest finish to the season. With those two losses, he would be the first Heisman winner to win the award after losing his last two games since Tim Brown. But I really think that the lead that he built up during the first half of the season was so big that those two losses ultimately aren't going to be disqualifying for him. I think it will be close, and I think Watson will come in second. But I would be surprised if Jackson doesn't win the award.